After 40 years of marriage, we downsized to help our daughter and her husband move into our family home. 2 months later, he changed the locks, moved our photos to the basement, and told me, "This house needs real men now." My wife cried herself to sleep on an air mattress while he hosted poker nights upstairs. I pretended not to hear, until the night I found my father's war medals in the trash and decided. I'm Ray. I'm 68. Retired. Married to Marlene for over 40 years. We had one daughter, Lisa, and we built our whole life in a small house in Rochester, New York. That house was everything. I mean everything. I laid the tile in the kitchen myself. Built the back deck one summer with my own hands. Every room had memories. Christmases, birthdays, even fights and makeups. The kind of house where even the creaky stairs felt like family. We were proud of what we built. We raised Lisa right. Paid our bills. Paid off the house. I worked at the same machine shop for 37 years. Marlene was a lunch lady at the middle school. We saved enough to retire simple but comfortable. Lisa met Trent about 5 years ago. He was tall, flashy, confident. Always wearing cologne like he just came out of a commercial. Something about him didn't sit right with me, but Marlene said to give him a chance. Lisa loved him. So I kept my mouth shut. He was always chasing some next big thing. First it was vending machines, then crypto, then real estate, then an app one never understood. Always something. Never anything solid. But he talked fast and loud and made it sound like he knew everything. When Lisa got pregnant, we were over the moon. Our first grandchild. Marlene started knitting again. I bought a crib from a local guy and cleaned it up. That's when they came to us. Lisa looked nervous. She sat us down in the living room and said, "Mom, Dad, things are hard. Trent's project didn't work out. We don't want to rent again." Then she asked if we'd consider selling the house. Our house. So she and Trent could move in and raise their family there. "It's where I grew up," she said. "It's the only home that ever felt safe." Marlene started crying right away. I didn't. I just sat there. They weren't asking us to just give it up. They wanted us to sell it and help them buy it. And in exchange, we could live in the basement while we fixed up a smaller house we'd buy in a cheaper part of town. Just for a while. I should have said no, but I didn't. I said yes. Because Lisa was our daughter. In that house, we thought the memories would stay even if we weren't living there. We moved into the basement. No windows. A cold cement floor. Trent said he'd put in carpet soon, but that never happened. He gave us an old air mattress. I bought a small fridge and set up a hot plate. It felt temporary. At first. But then the little things started. One morning, I went to hang my coat on the hook by the front door and saw it was gone. All the hooks were gone. Replaced by some shiny metal thing that said the Hendersons in cursive. That was their last name. I asked where my coat was. Lisa said it was downstairs, on our level. Our level. That hit hard. Then they took down the family photos. Our wedding photo, Lisa's kindergarten picture, even a big family reunion shot from 1997 that hung above the stairs for years. Marlene noticed right away. She asked Lisa about it, and Lisa said, "We're redecorating." Trent didn't even look at us when he walked by. Next came the locks. I went for a morning walk. When I got back, my key didn't work. I rang the bell. Trent opened the door holding a mug of coffee and looking annoyed. "Yeah, we changed the locks," he said. "Security upgrade." "You couldn't tell me?" He shrugged. "Didn't think you needed to know. You don't really use the front door." That night, I had to knock to get into my own house. 2 months in, things got worse. Trent started hosting poker nights upstairs. Loud guys. Beers. Smoke. Laughing so loud it shook the floor. Marlene would cry quietly into her pillow. The baby wasn't born yet, so Lisa stayed upstairs with them, laughing too. Then, one night, Trent came downstairs. He didn't even knock. He looked around the basement and said, "You know, this whole setup's not gonna last forever." "What do you mean?" I asked. "This house," he said, "needs real men now. You've had your time." I stared at him. He walked away. That night, I didn't sleep. Then, a week later, I found the box. It was trash night. Trent always made me take out the garbage. He said it kept me useful. I walked out to the curb, and something caught my eye in the can. A torn-up shoebox. Inside were my father's war medals. Bronze Star. Purple Heart. The flag from his funeral. Even a letter from President Truman. All of it in the trash. I stood there, in the cold, holding the box. My hands were shaking. That's when something changed in me. I walked back down to the basement. Marlene was lying on the mattress, staring at the wall. Get some sleep, I said. We're not going to be down here much longer. She didn't ask what I meant, but I meant it. They thought they took everything. They didn't know who I used to be. They didn't know what I kept in that little fireproof box, or what kind of people I still had in my phone. This wasn't over. I waited 2 more weeks. I didn't say anything. Not to Lisa. Not to Trent. Not even to Marlene. I kept taking out the trash, cleaning up after their dog, making myself small. Invisible. Trent thought he won. That was his mistake. Because every day, I was collecting. I started going through the mail. Not opening it. Just looking. Trent was careless. He left envelopes out in the open. I saw final notices. Red stamps. Credit card bills from 4 different banks. A foreclosure notice from a failed property in Buffalo. A denial letter from a bank. The guy was drowning, but he wore that smug grin like he was king of the world. One night, I accidentally unplugged the router during one of his Zoom meetings. I walked upstairs, plugged it back in, and caught a glimpse of his screen. He was pitching some kind of premium garage gym franchise to a group of investors. The PowerPoint looked like it was made by a middle schooler. One of the guys on the call said, "Trent, your numbers don't add up." Then Trent kicked him off the call. I took mental notes. The second thing I did was make a call. Old friend from the machine shop, Donnie. He retired a few years before me, but his nephew worked in real estate. Knew the ins and outs. I told Donnie what happened. He didn't even hesitate. "You gave them the house?" he asked. "Helped them buy it," I said. "But I never took my name off the deed." Dead silence. "Then you what?" "Yeah. The lawyer said we could transfer partial ownership but keep joint rights until we fully moved out. Just in case." Trent didn't read the papers. That's when Donnie started laughing. He gave me his nephew's number. I called. We talked. He looked up the paperwork. Said I was still a legal co-owner. Could walk through that front door any time I wanted. Could legally access any part of the house. Basement, attic, upstairs, didn't matter. Trent had no idea. So I started planting the seeds. First, I went to the attic and took back my dad's trunk. Locked it. Brought it to a storage unit I rented in town. Next, I backed up the baby photos, family videos, everything we ever stored on the old computer Lisa left in the basement. Saved it to a flash drive. Hid it in my sock drawer. Then, I found his weak spot, his newest LLC. He made one for every project. This one was for a fake gym franchise called Iron Valor. Real patriotic colors, fake numbers. I dug through his old brochures and found he listed our house address as the business headquarters. Bad move. I took that info and passed it to Donnie's nephew, who ran it through a few systems. Turns out, Trent had over $60,000 in debt under that LLC. And worse? He listed Marlene as a cosigner. He forged her signature. When I told Marlene, she went pale. She whispered, he didn't. I showed her the document. She sank onto the mattress and covered her face. That was the moment I stopped being quiet. That night, Trent hosted another poker game. Loud voices. Beer bottles clinking. Laughter. I stood at the foot of the stairs and watched them through the banister. Him, sitting in my old recliner. His buddies making jokes about the old man in the basement. They didn't see me, but they would. I waited until the next morning. The house was quiet. Beer cans all over the living room, chips crushed into the rug Marlene and I picked out 20 years ago. Trent was passed out on the couch, snoring with his mouth open like a hawk. Lisa was still upstairs. I went out and got 2 things, a large coffee and a folder from the storage unit. Inside the folder were copies of everything, ownership documents, forged signature proofs, photos of the trash box with my dad's medals, and a USB with screenshots of Trent's fake business files. I also had printouts showing the LLC debt tied to our home address and the bank letters. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. I went to Lisa. She was in the kitchen, holding a crying baby, looking like hell. Her hair was messy, and she had that exhausted look Marlene used to have when Lisa was a newborn. Only now it was different. He wasn't helping her. He was using her. I laid the folder on the table. She gave me a tired look. "Dad, what's this?" "Read it. And then you tell me who this house really belongs to." She flipped through slowly, then faster. When she hit the forged signature, she froze. He wouldn't. He did. She shook her head. "No, he said he was taking care of everything. He said you were just being dramatic about things. That you and Mom needed space." I didn't say anything. I just let the weight of her silence sit. When she got to the photo of the trash can with my dad's medals on top of pizza crusts and beer bottles, she stopped breathing for a second. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know you did. You just didn't want to believe it. She cried. I didn't comfort her. Not yet. That night, she confronted him. I stayed in the basement with Marlene, but we heard everything. Lisa yelling. You lied to me. You used my mother's name on a loan. You threw away his father's medals. Trent yelling back. I did it for us. You think your dad's some hero? He's deadweight. You want your kid growing up with that loser in the basement. Something crashed. Then silence. A few minutes later, Trent stormed down the stairs. You set her against me, old man? I stood up. Looked him in the eye. You did that all by yourself. He came closer, real chest puffed. You think you're tough because you were in a machine shop? I could end you. I pulled out my phone and hit play. It was a voice recording. His voice. From a poker night 2 weeks ago. Old man needs to go. If he drops dead down there, no one care. His eyes twitched. You recorded me? Sure did. And what? You gonna sue me? No, I said. I'm going to evict you. That's when he laughed. Actually laughed. This is in my house. No, Trent, I said. You never read the deed. He stopped. I pulled the deed out of the folder. My name's still on it. Yours isn't. You and Lisa got in under a joint tenancy with right of survivorship, which means I'm still a legal owner. I talked to a lawyer. I can file to dissolve ownership. I can file fraud charges. I can freeze the house's sale. And if I push hard enough, I can get you charged for forgery. Trent turned red, then pale. You wouldn't. I will. I already started. He ran upstairs, packed a bag, screamed at Lisa, said she betrayed him, that she'd regret this, took his car and left. We thought it was over. But 2 days later, he came back with a lawyer. Trent came back 2 days later in a suit that didn't fit right, standing at our front door with some young guy in a blazer holding a briefcase. Lisa opened the door. Marlene and I stayed back, but we could hear everything. I'm here with my lawyer, Trent said like he was announcing the arrival of a damn king. We need to have a serious conversation. You're not going to screw me over like this, Lisa. The lawyer looked unsure. He was sweating already, barely older than Lisa. Probably one of Trent's poker buddies with a law degree from some online program. Lisa crossed her arms. This isn't your house, Trent. You think I'm just gonna let your dad, that man, take it from me? After everything I've built here? You didn't build anything, she said quietly. You conned your way into my family's house. He started pushing inside like he still lived there, brushing past her shoulder. That's when I stepped in. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just stood in the middle of the living room holding the certified letter from my real lawyer. The one I hired quietly 2 weeks ago. The one who actually knew real estate law. You've got 30 days, Trent, I said. You can leave on your own, or we go to court. And if we go to court, your fake business goes under public scrutiny. Your debts. The forged documents. The taxes you haven't paid. All of it. He laughed like he didn't believe me. You think I'm scared of some rusty old man with a letter? I know the law. Great, I said. So you understand what a co-owner with evidence of fraud and forgery can do. The lawyer, his lawyer, looked over my letter. His face went blank. He whispered something to Trent. Trent's eyes narrowed. You don't have the guts to take this all the way. I stepped closer. Real quiet. You threw my dad's medals in the trash. You made my wife cry herself to sleep on the floor of a house I built. You locked me out of my own front door. What do you think I've got to lose? He didn't answer. Lisa stood behind me, and for the first time since this all started, she looked like she saw things clearly. Trent turned to her. You're really doing this? You're siding with them? She didn't blink. You already picked your side when you forged my mother's name. He grabbed his briefcase, cursed us all under his breath, and stormed back out the door. But I knew that wasn't the end. Because guys like Trent don't just disappear. They panic. They get sloppy. They lash out. Sure enough, the next day, I got a call from the bank. Someone had tried to open a line of credit in my name. The week after that, our mailbox got torn off the post. Then a note left in the driveway and sharp, old man, time's running out. Trent was spiraling. So I pushed back harder. We filed a full fraud report with the police. Marlene gave a statement. Lisa did too. The forged loan using her name? We gave the originals and the bank copies to the fraud division. My lawyer filed a formal partition action in court. We weren't just evicting him now. We were going after his business, his assets, and anything tied to my name or Marlene's. I started going to every court date in a button-up shirt, pressed pants, and that same quiet focus I had when I used to negotiate steel orders back in the shop. I wasn't yelling or making scenes. I was just a man cleaning up what someone tried to ruin. Lisa filed for legal separation. She took the baby and moved into a rental nearby. We helped her with the deposit. She didn't ask, Marlene offered. And then it got real. Trent skipped court. Then another date. The judge issued a bench warrant. Next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I'm watching local news, and there's Trent being dragged out of a warehouse in handcuffs. Turns out he tried to start another fake investment gym out of an abandoned strip mall. Scammed 2 more guys out of money. One of them reported him when the equipment he ordered never showed up. The cops found documents in his car tying him to identity theft, including mine. They also found photos of our house, taken from outside, in the dark. That's when it hit me. We weren't just getting justice. We were lucky, because he was planning something worse. He's in jail now. No bail. Lisa has full custody. The house is legally back under mine and Marlene's name. But that's not the end. Not yet. Because there's still one more thing he tried to hide. And I found it in the crawl space under the deck. The crawl space was something I hadn't looked at in years. I only went down there because I was cleaning up after Trent's last act of cowardice. He left a pile of rotting garbage behind the shed. I figured if he hid one thing in the trash, he might have hidden more in places no one else would check. I pulled up the hatch under the back deck. Old spider webs. Dirt. A broken rake from when Lisa was 10. But in the far corner, half buried under an old tarp, I saw a black duffel bag. Not ours. I opened it. Cash. Bundles of it. Wrapped in cheap rubber bands. Crumpled bills. No order, just stuffed in. Tens, 20s, hundreds. My guess? Between $40,000 and $50,000. But that wasn't all. There were ledgers. Handwritten. Sloppy. Names, amounts, some addresses. It was a list of people, maybe investors, maybe victims. I recognized one name, Frank Carver. He was at that poker night 2 months ago. Used to run a liquor store until he suddenly retired. I remembered Trent bragging that night about flipping his whole damn future with one conversation. There was also a prepaid phone. Still had charge. I scrolled through the texts. Dozens of them. Most were from names I didn't know. One thread stood out. It was from someone saved in the phone as came in. A few of the messages made my skin crawl. Did you dump the doc with her signature? Don't be sloppy. Keep the old man quiet. Last thing we need is cops sniffing around. You still want the FL setup? I got a guy who will buy the baby gym front, no questions. Then the last one, dated 3 days before his arrest. If it gets hot, burn it all. Start over. You always land on your feet. I showed all of it to my lawyer. Then I turned it over to the police. They confirmed the money was unreported income tied to at least 2 shell companies. One of them had defaulted on a federal loan for COVID business relief. The same loan program Trent had bragged about gaming one night when he thought I was asleep. The cops brought in forensic accountants. They were thrilled. Said the phone might tie him to a bigger scam ring across state lines. That's when the story stopped being about revenge. It became about accountability. 2 more arrests were made based on what I found, one in Buffalo, one in Jersey. Both guys were linked to Trent's shell companies. Both flipped quick. Lisa got a call from the district attorney offering her the chance to testify. Said her name had been used on multiple fraudulent filings, and she could help make the case airtight. She did it, proud and steady. Meanwhile, Marlene and I fixed up the basement, not for us, but for Lisa. We told her the upstairs could be hers again, but she didn't want it. Too many bad memories now, she said. She liked the basement. Said it felt like starting fresh. So we helped her turn it into a cozy little apartment. New flooring, real furniture, good lighting. The baby's crib sat where the air mattress used to be. Sometimes I just stand in the doorway and look at it. All the crying and fear that lived in that room, gone now. And then something happened I didn't expect. A few weeks later, Lisa found me outside, polishing my dad's medals at the picnic table. She sat down, looked me in the eye, and said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I chose the wrong man. And I let him hurt you. Hurt Mom." I didn't say anything right away. She said, "I don't know how you didn't give up on me." And I said, "You're my daughter. That's how." Then I stood up, handed her one of the medals, and said, "This doesn't just belong to Grandpa. It belongs to you now, too. You earned it back." She cried. I did too, a little. Not much. Just enough. But that still wasn't the end. Because 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. From Trent. Handwritten. No return address. Just one line. You might have won the house, but I'm not done. I folded it up, took it straight to the police, and I started making plans. Real plans. The kind you make when you know a man like that isn't finished trying. Because you don't stop a man like Trent with just lawyers and courts. Sometimes, you've got to hit him where he actually lives. And I knew exactly where that was. I didn't show the letter to Lisa. Not yet. I showed it to Marlene, though. She sat real still after reading it. Then she folded it twice, set it on the table, and said, "We should have buried him when we had the chance." That was the moment I knew she was done being scared, too. I called my lawyer. He filed a report and handed it over to the DA. They flagged the letter as an intimidation attempt, even though there was no signature, no fingerprints, no envelope. But the handwriting matched Trent's arrest forms. Sloppy loops, the same way he always wrote the number 5 like an S. He was in county lockup, waiting on multiple charges, but we were told he had a bail hearing coming up. That's what the letter meant. He thought he was getting out. That same week, Lisa got served. It was a custody petition. Trent was suing for 50-50 of their baby. His court filing claimed she was the unstable one, that she alienated him from the home, that I had threatened him, and that he had been forced to flee for his safety. The man who locked us in a basement now said he was the victim. It felt like some kind of sick joke. Only it was real. Lisa fell apart that night, sat on our couch, and kept whispering, "How is this happening?" Marlene held her. I just sat there, quiet, planning. Because I still had one card left. Something I've been holding back. 2 months earlier, right after we first moved into the basement, I installed a cheap little camera in the corner of the utility room. Just in case. One of those motion sensor types. I mostly wanted to keep an eye on the back door, but I never turned it off. I went back through the memory card. It took hours. But then I found it. Trent. Drunk. 2 in the morning. Wandering down to the basement after poker night. Holding a bottle, swaying. Talking to himself. He walked right into frame and started talking to Marlene while she was asleep. Just standing over her. "You're lucky I let you stay here," he slurred. "Could have tossed you both out. But nah, I'm generous. Real men take over. That's how it works." Then he muttered something about the baby. I watched it 5 times to be sure. He said, "That kid's not gonna remember you two anyway. I'll make sure of it." I burned the video onto a disk. Made a backup. Showed it to Lisa. Then our lawyer. When Trent's bail hearing came up, the DA had the video in hand. His lawyer tried to argue it was taken out of context. That he was drunk. That it was just harmless venting. The judge didn't buy it. Bail was denied. He wouldn't be going anywhere. But the custody petition was still alive. So I decided it was time to go deeper. That meant Florida. Remember that message on his burner phone? The one from K-Man, asking if he still wanted the FL setup? I had no clue what it meant, until I remembered Trent's last Thanksgiving speech. Drunk at the table, bragging, "Someday, babe, we'll be living big in Tampa. I got a guy who'll set us up in some beachfront real estate. You'll see." So I made another call. Donnie's nephew, the real estate guy, pulled records. Sure enough, one of Trent's LLC's, Valor Coastal Ventures, was tied to a failed development project in Tampa. It was a shell operation. On paper, it was supposed to build a veteran-themed fitness resort near the coast. In reality, it was a fake address, a fake office, and a string of unpaid invoices. We sent the records to the DA. That tied Trent to out-of-state fraud, which meant federal attention. And then it happened. We got a call from a federal investigator. They were building a case. They needed witnesses. And they said if we cooperated, they'd use every piece of evidence we had to not just keep Trent in jail, but to bury his whole web of lies for good. I told them we'd give them everything. No redactions. No conditions. Lisa, shaking but determined, agreed to testify. But just when we thought we had him cornered again, another twist. A week before his federal indictment, someone posted bail. Not for all his charges, just enough to get him out temporarily on the old real estate fraud case. The name on the payment? Karen Dempsey. That name meant nothing to us. But I recognized her handwriting on a package that showed up the next day. It was addressed to Lisa. Inside were photos. Of Lisa. The baby. Me. Marlene. Taken from outside the house. Through windows. From a car parked across the street. One of the photos was taken while Lisa gave her statement at the courthouse. The message was clear. Trent had help, and he was out again. This time, I didn't go to the police. I made a different call, to someone who owed me. And I said, it's time. The man I called was named Eddie. We used to work the floor together at the shop back in the 80s. Quiet guy, strong as hell, real steady hands. But everyone knew not to mess with him. Back then, if someone skimmed off your toolbox or screwed you on overtime, Eddie handled it, not with fists, but with silence and pressure. He once convinced a foreman to reverse a layoff decision just by showing up at his house in the rain and staring at the porch light for 20 minutes. When Eddie retired, he moved to a trailer about 30 minutes outside of town and took up work as a private contractor. The kind of contractor who finds things for people. Quietly. I hadn't spoken to him in years. But when he answered, he didn't even ask why I was calling. He just said, "You need it done legal, or just done?" "Legal for now," I said. "But I need pressure. Eyes. And I need to know who the hell Karen Dempsey is." There was a pause. Then he said, "Give me 48 hours. He hung up. While we waited, I moved Lisa and the baby into a motel under a different name. Paid cash. Put Marlene in charge of checking them in and out every couple days. I stayed back at the house, just me. The cameras were still running. I bought 2 more and installed them on the back shed and tree facing the street. That same night, I saw a dark SUV idle across the road for 20 minutes. Lights off. Windows tinted. Didn't move until I stepped out with a flashlight and walked toward it. They pulled away quick. I logged the plate number. Gave it to Eddie when he called back the next day. His report was short and cold. Karen Dempsey's not his lawyer. She's not family. She's an old girlfriend. Knew Trent from Florida. They were running scams together back in 2017. She got probation. He got away clean. What's she doing here now? Setting up his next move. She's got a rental in Webster under a fake name. He's staying there. And the SUV belongs to a guy named Vince Barlow. Muscle. Small-time repo work. Sometimes does favors for cash. Probably the one taking the photos. I felt it in my chest then. The old burn I used to get when something wasn't just wrong, but broken. They're building something, Ray, Eddie said. He's not done with you. He's not done with Lisa. He's trying to flip this whole thing. My guess? He files some last-minute petition, tries to make you look unstable, maybe even plants something. A fight. A break-in. Anything to shift the spotlight. What do I do? You do what you've always done, Eddie said. You stand your ground. But you let me apply the pressure. 2 nights later, Vince Barlow didn't show up to work. No charges. No incident. But his SUV was found parked at a rest stop in Pennsylvania with 4 flat tires and no plates. Karen Dempsey left town the next morning. Trent? He showed up back at our place 3 days later. Middle of the night. Pounded on the front door like a man who had nothing left to lose. Open the door, old man. I didn't. Instead, I let the motion cameras record him losing it. Screaming, kicking the steps, threatening to burn this whole place down if it's the last thing I do. Then he smashed the porch light and took off into the dark. Police showed up 15 minutes later. I showed them the video. They issued a warrant. This time, it wasn't just fraud or forgery or unpaid loans. It was terroristic threat. Endangering a protected witness. Violating court orders. It went federal. Again. Only this time, no one bailed him out. And that wasn't the end. Because there was still the matter of Lisa's divorce, the custody hearing, and the full damages claim against Trent's shell businesses. We'd cracked the outer shell. But it was time to break what was left of the core. And for that, I needed one final thing. Not a lawyer. Not Eddie. I needed Lisa. Because the judge needed to hear the truth. And Lisa was finally ready to tell it. Lisa's court date came on a Monday morning in late spring. She wore a gray sweater and held her hands tight in her lap. She was pale but steady. Marlene and I sat behind her, close enough so she could feel us there. The courtroom was small, quiet. Just a few people in the pews. No cameras. No reporters. Just a judge, a clerk, 2 attorneys, and the man who tried to tear our family apart. Trent walked in wearing a wrinkled suit and handcuffs. His face was sunken, like the lies he used to live on had finally stopped feeding him. He still had that same little smirk, though. The one that said he thought he'd find a way to win anyway. He didn't. Lisa testified for almost an hour. The DA guided her gently through every step. She told them about the forged documents, the hidden debt, the emotional abuse, the threats, the poker nights, the photos in the mail, the trashing of my father's medals. She told them how she begged Trent to be a partner, a father, a man, and how he chose control over love. When the defense lawyer tried to twist her words, she didn't flinch. When they asked her why she stayed as long as she did, she looked at the judge and said, "Because I didn't want to believe I married a monster. And because I thought if I could just hold it together long enough, maybe my child wouldn't have to see what I saw." But the truth is, the only reason we're all still standing is because my father didn't give up on me. Even when I gave up on him. I don't think I breathed once during that. Then they played the video. The one from the basement camera. The one with Trent standing over Marlene, drunk, slurring threats. You could feel the air change in that room. The judge didn't call a recess. He just told the bailiff to take Trent back into custody and schedule the final ruling for the next morning. That night, Lisa slept at our place again. She stayed up late feeding the baby. I caught her staring out the window around midnight. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "He almost broke me, Dad." But he didn't. "No, because you were still standing." The next morning, the judge gave full legal and physical custody to Lisa. The court also ruled that Trent had no visitation rights unless ordered by a future court, and only after completing a full psychiatric evaluation and serving his federal sentence. By then, the baby would be in kindergarten. Then the real hammer fell. Based on the evidence from our storage box, the Florida Shell Company records, the crawlspace cache, the burner phone, and statements from multiple victims and Eddie's private findings, the federal court handed Trent a 22-year sentence for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, tax evasion, and multiple counts of harassment and endangerment. There would be no more bail, no more poker nights, no more smug laughter from upstairs while we cried in the basement. The man who told me this house needed real men now was going to be eating boxed food in a cell for the next 2 decades. We got the house fully restored to our name. Lisa transferred it to us, and we drew up new papers. When we pass, it'll go to her and the baby, no one else. As for Karen Dempsey, she fled. The feds are still watching for her. I'm not worried. If she ever comes back, she'll find a different kind of Ray waiting at the door. Marlene smiles more now. She bakes again. She reads to the baby every night, right there in the room where we once slept on an air mattress, afraid to cough too loud. Lisa found a job at the local school district. Admin support. Nothing fancy, but honest work. The kind of work that helps you breathe. And me? I sit on the porch most days now, polishing the brass on my father's war medals, watching the yard, holding a baby monitor on my lap, listening to my grandson breathe easy. I still remember the night I found those medals in the trash. The quiet rage I felt. The helplessness. The way I nearly let it all go just to keep peace. But I didn't. Because sometimes peace isn't quiet. Sometimes peace is war. The kind you fight with patience, proof, and people who never stopped believing in each other. My revenge wasn't loud. It was steady, legal, cold, and complete. Trent's story ended in chains. Mine ends right here on my porch, with the door unlocked, my wife beside me, and my family whole again. We didn't just survive him. We outlived him. And that's the best revenge there is.